Joining us now here on In the Circle on D1 Softball, he is the head coach of the Texas Longhorns, fresh off a College World Series appearance into the playing for the national championship. They are, depending where you look, they'd be the number one preseason ranked team in the country going into the season. They enter the year, first year in the SEC. He's done it all in the sport. Of course, I speak of Mike White, kind enough to join us here on In the Circle on D1 Softball. Coach, how you doing?
Hey, great. Thanks, Eric. Excited to be here. And obviously the season coming up, it's an exciting time. Lots of things to do and get ready. But we're excited for this first week coming up in February.
It's so unique as I was studying your team this year. It's like, wait a minute, I studied this team last year. Basically, for the most part, there are obviously some great players that you lost through to graduation. You've added three new faces, as we'll discuss. But what is it like to have this big of a roster returning? I remember last year you reminded me, hey, look, we're still young. This team, people kind of forgot that last year, but you've got this core back from a year ago, a team that accomplished so much.
Yeah, it is exciting to have now what we consider maybe a senior leadership type team. And, I mean, being young, that label for the last couple of years, we can't use that anymore. So, it's great to have some experience back. And, of course, as I've said many times, you can't practice being in those situations of the College World Series and or championships. So it's something we need to build on and continue to do. And like you said, just keep that core rolling from year to year. And so you're peer led and not so much coach led.
Do you sense more confidence from this group coming into this fall and this year compared to maybe last fall? Because of what you mentioned, they had to go through the gauntlet of the postseason, that incredible super regional, that memorable super regional against A&M, get to the route to the World Series. We had to beat some good teams just to get to the national championship series. Do you sense that has carried over that confidence that maybe they didn't have a year ago because they hadn't gone through that in the postseason?
We certainly get a little bit of that feeling from practice, going out and being with the team and seeing how they're operating, how they're talking. They're really comfortable in those some of the positions. Obviously, there's a couple of positions up for grabs. There is some competition going on. You always want that, but obviously having pretty much the full pitching staff back, plus a really good freshman in Cam Salmon, that should help us there. Obviously, losing a lefty and Estelle Check is something we can't replace, but the pitching staff is intact. We've obviously got a solid nucleus throughout the lineup with a good hitting team that I think batted 370 last year as a team. So we're excited about having all those pieces back for a good run this year.
You did lose some pieces, and there's some pieces to fill. And you mentioned Estelle Check. You don't replace that. But tell us a little bit about the pitching staff. You return a lot, but you've added a new face and a freshman there that a lot of people are excited about. Just tell us a bit about that adjustment on the pitching staff.
Yeah, so Kim Salmon reminds me of Jessica Mullins, and obviously Jessica had a really good career with Texas State and was such a competitor. And we think that Cam kind of falls into that kind of mold, and would give us that little up ball kind of screwball, much like Haley Delcini. Haley was such a competitor for us, so I think she fits well into our staff right now. The way it is, it's pretty balanced. Obviously, Tegan Cavan's the headliner there, along with Mac Morgan. And what I love about Mac Morgan is she's just so consistent. You know what you're going to get from her day in and day out. And then as a coach, you always want that. Then, of course, you've got, Sophia Simpson, who's that, kind of mesmerizing changeup to be able to throw out there. And Citlali Gutierrez, who pitched a little bit for the Mexican national team last year, has got some experience there from international. So there's some depth in there, and there's different pieces, different ways we can use that pitching staff, and that should be good for us coming into this opening part of the season.
Of course, certainly somebody that'll be catching their pitches will be, of course, Reese Atwood. What an incredible year, a historic year at Texas. Rewrote the record books offensively. Top three finalists for National Player of the Year. What have you seen from her this year? Not only from her overall game, but especially catching and being able to catch this talented pitching staff.
Yeah, she's just not satisfied. She wants to get better. She wants to push. I think that she has long-term goals of being on that U.S. national team, and certainly, she was definitely one of the top hitters in the country and catchers last year. And like I said, she's not satisfied and continues to push herself. She's always in the batting cages trying to get better at what she's doing. And I think she's taken more of a leadership role now. I think she feels really comfortable as a junior being able to express her opinions and help lead the club and lead the team. And I've seen a lot of growth from her in the last few years.
Tegan Cavan, you mentioned. I think people forget she was just a freshman last year.
Yeah.
She didn't pitch like it at most of the times there with her cool, calm, and composure there. Tell me about her maturation now as she enters her second year now, having gone through this 1 year and probably giving some pointers probably to Cambria what to expect as a freshman year. But now she's in her sophomore year. What have you seen from Tegan?
Yeah, definitely. She has some ice blood running through her veins. That big moment in the Super Regional against Texas A&M, her ability to come in and get that strikeout. So there's been some big moments for her, and of course, throwing a couple of shutouts in the College World Series. So there's a lot of stuff for her to look back on and say, I'm good, But we want her to get better, and be able to reinvent yourself for coming into your sophomore year because there's be a lot more tape on her, a lot more film. She's got to be able to move the ball around a little bit more, and we've seen that development already coming into the fall and heading into the spring. And I think she's going to be able to throw some different pitches out there and use more of the plate.
Defensively, I know you liked your defense last year. It was very athletic. Could get to plays that maybe a lot of players can't get to. You've added a couple of infielders, Katie Bennett via the transfer portal. You've added Brister, the young freshman. How does your defense look? What are some of the key positions? It's kind of a close competition right now.
Yeah, well, starting off at third base, Mia Scott just has so much range over there, and she's done a great job for us and looks good this fall, along with Jolie Mitchell, who'll come a piece in there a little bit. But we're also able, like you said, Katie Bennett is someone we can plug in any position. We can put her at third, short, second. So that's a really good backup for us. And Charlene Brister, the same thing. Mostly at short and second, to be able to do that. Of course, Martinez has always been a stable for us. She's so smooth. And then Leanne Good, who is completely healthy this year. She had that surgery on her wrist a couple of years ago, and she wasn't quite back to 100% last year. And so far this year, she's looking very, very good over there. So we should be able to really be good up the middle. At first base, that's kind of like, who we put over there. Katie Stewart's another one we can put over there. And Katie, we've been working a little bit at shortstop as well. Katie Stewart with her arm strength and everything, just to make sure we're deep enough throughout the middle lineup there or middle infield there. So we've got some plug and play pieces and be able to kind of like move them around to give us our best options.
What kind of talent is Brister? What kind of player is she? And how will she contribute to this team as a youngster, as a freshman?
Yeah, she reminds me a lot of Alyssa Washington, a kid that slight build, but can really pop it. She's hit a couple of home runs off scrimmages and practices for us and is really a good hitter. Much better than kind of I gave her credit for to start with us. I'm seeing some good maturation there. She just needs a little more confidence, I think, to feel like she's going to be able to push some of these other players. So it's something we're going to work with her and build on it. But she has an opportunity to crack this lineup in some form if she really kind of takes it to heart and gets into working a little bit harder and pushing some more people.
How are you feeling about your outfield there? You have great range there. You still got Ashley Maloney. You've got a great talent pool there in the outfield. What have you seen from there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously losing Bella Dayton was a big one. I mean, that outfield we had there had a lot of range in it and a lot of good arms and ability to go get some balls out there. But Ashley Maloney, I think, is one of the most underrated players in the country, and she hits close to 400 every year, and I don't think she quite gets her just desserts. Maybe the doesn't have the sexy home run numbers that people look for, but she's been swinging away a lot more this fall and going into the spring. So we hope to see that development in our game so that, we get into situations where, say, loaded bases, we don't really necessarily want to slap in those situations. She has the ability to swing away now and getting that confidence. So I like what she's doing. Caden Henry is again learning to go back better than what she has done in the past. But her range, she gets to a lot of balls that you don't think you can get to. So I'm liking that. And of course, another consistent arm. Left field's going to be a bit of a battle. Could be Katie Bennett, could be Vic Hunter, could be Vanessa Quiroga. It could be Adair Wallace. It could be several people battling that out, and whoever hits is going to be in that position out there, and for ability to make some defensive changes later in the game.
It sounds to me you like the depth you've got and the versatility you've got. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, it's a small roster per numbers, 20 roster. So there's not a lot of extra players out there, but the players we have are able to be able to contribute to the team and the program, which I like. We do have a new walk-on, Rachel Wells. Someone that probably won't start for us this year, per se, but she's shown a lot of power at batting practice. So we really kind of like that. And who knows, you just never know when those kids are going to kind of click and get that aha moment and produce for you.
Did you know that Katie Bennett would fit in, like you mentioned, described her, like she could play a lot of positions there? Because that kind of went under the radar, that addition.
Yeah, I mean, she was injured a little bit, and then of course Abilene Christian, but had some good numbers, and I think that she's able to really use her speed, short game, and of course we've been working on swinging away with her as well, and I think she's going to be a good addition to our program, and obviously can fill a lot of positions for us.
No doubt. I want to ask you, your coaching tree continues to grow every year. I think I saw a stat our staff at D1 mentioned to me that you have the second most coaches, former players, coaches that have been on your staff that are currently coaching in college softball in all levels. Number two, and I think you have like four head coaches in Division One alone. There, including Megan Bartlett, Chelsea Spencer, which you know of being highlighting there, but there's others, Jessica Allister. What's the key? How do you? What's the key that you evaluated a particular person as far as bringing them in as a coach on your staff that eventually becomes a head coach, or maybe a player that gets into coaching? How do you evaluate and be able to spot talent like that?
Well, I like coaches that can do it, not only just say what they want to do, but the ability to do it and have done it before. I mean, you look at Steve Singleton, coming from the minor leagues and his ability to play some middle infield and hit with power. Kristen Zaleski, her ability to play at Texas State outfielder, and of course Patty Ruth Taylor being a pitcher. So I like those kind of formats, but really just letting them do their job and encouraging them to take over. And I'm here as a guide. But let them run the ship and what the areas that they're supposed to be in. I think that gives them the confidence to go out and start their own program, and that's what we're trying to do is develop them to start their own program. Hopefully, they all want to have that desire to go on and be head coaches. I know, Steve Singleton's got to be close to making that decision pretty soon, and Kristen Zaleski has been a head coach before, and I'm sure Patty Ruth, the way she's going to make a really good head coach one day, albeit being pretty young. So it is, it is something that is great to have, and obviously a recruiting tool as well for more coaches. I'm always looking for the next coach for our program, and there's some great ones coming up through the networks.
Was there a coach that you kind of said, "Hey, they gave me this opportunity, so I need to return the favor in the game there and help other coaches"? Was there anybody who was that for you?
Well, obviously, Kathy Aronson was the one that took the big chance with me, and coming from a male side of the game and not having coached at all, even not even done camps really, per se. And so she was able to say, because she knew me from the national teams, and she was a national team director for the women's side when we were in Argentina, so she got to know me a little bit. But it was a chance, so I'm grateful to her for taking that chance and giving me the opportunity to get out there and start working on the women's side of things.
How are you a different coach today than when you got into coaching?
I think I've become a little more patient. Before, I kind of like, and sometimes you got to, you want everyone to have the same fire you do, everyone to like get after it and have the same whatever, and it just doesn't work that way. Everyone's kind of wired a little bit differently. So I think trying to find them what their why is and what makes them tick, what their go button is, and I think that's what I've been able to do a little bit better. Be a little more understanding of the players, and understand the pressures that they have on them, because it's always developing, and especially now with NIL and social media.
You mentioned Steve Singleton. He was the D1 softball assistant coach of the year for he helped to run the offense, historic offense in Texas softball history. I remember I ran into Cat Osterby. He's like, "Oh, sure, that where was that offense when I pitched back in the day?" But what makes him such a great talent as far as evaluator of offense and hitting? Because I've heard a lot of coaches across the country try to kind of emulate what you did as far as bringing in Steve Singleton, that baseball background, to help them with their offense. What was it about him that stood out?
I think you have to have the ability to see the other side of the game, that it is not the same as baseball. There's different you have different things about it. We don't have to hit the ball 400 feet, for example, and so the launch angle factor is not something we kind of go into. Also, not a cookie cutter approach. He's taken what the player has and develops it into the best. And obviously, there's key positions that he looks at and that we look at, and key ideas in the mind. But he was open to other things too, to learning about the woman's side of the game. Sometimes you can get fixed in your own way you've been taught or the way you kind of approach it. And so he's always learning and listening and willing to adapt to different theories about how to develop the best players.
And then Kristen really helps with the short game. She was a great short game player back in her day. There's a good balance there too, right? Because that's the thing you like about your offenses is not you don't want to just depend on one aspect of the game, go for the power game. You like to play the small ball and balance, kind of use your speed and athleticism as well. There's a balancing act that she helps in that range as well, doesn't she?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just go the old saying that speed is doesn't go into a slump, but also you can't steal first base. So yeah, it's kind of a mix, really. And from my playing days, I know some of the men's teams, like Salt Lake City for the men's team was such a short game specialist, but they had trouble scoring a lot of runs and against the good pitching and driving runs in. So you got to have that balance, the ability to be able to get onto base. And I've always taken Mike Candrea's teams from Arizona as good examples. He always had that speed at the top and then some power people through the middle, and that's what I try to do, and have a little bit of balance there. And obviously, my teams from Oregon, Jenny Decatur and Courtney Co. and Jenna Lilly and several of those, and of course, with the power numbers, Limbills and those people cost us. So just taking that balanced approach and understand it. It changes from year to year too. So it all makes a difference on how your philosophy of how you coach and the risks you take or the strategies you take during each game.
Patty Route, I remember you told me about Patty running the pitching there, and you letting her run the pitching staff. You still being involved. Now you got another year under your belts working together. What did you learn about her? What did she, and how she works things as now you enter another year together? They're working with the pitching staff.
Yeah, what's interesting, you would think that, not trying to blow my own tune here, but, people would be a little maybe hesitant to come in and start just taking over, and it was hell no, not with her, it's like, get out of the way. I'm taking the pitch calling over. I'm got this, and she's learning trial by fire. And, we talk about some of the calls but for the most part, she does a great job and, mixes it up really well and understands the strengths and weaknesses of each of the pitches and develops a really good plan. And the ability now for me to be able to be more of a general manager and look around and enables her to be 100% with the pitchers. And of course, with a five-person pitching staff, that's a lot of time needed, and so that has really helped our pitching staff and her ability to be there day in and day out and drive them and get them to push themselves, both mentally and physically, has really helped our program.
We've talked about it. I think the last couple of years we've talked about the going in the SEC. So it's now reality. It's here. The schedule is out. Everything you're getting ready as an SEC. What is it like? I mean, now you're going to be facing you're the best conference, tough competition. But the funny thing is you're familiar with a lot of these programs because you've played them either in the postseason or in the regular season. Does that kind of make it like not that big of an adjustment because you've played so many of these teams already?
Well, I think the biggest adjustment is going to come into going to their fields and playing in their environments. Obviously we played at Arkansas and we played at Tennessee, um, played at Alabama, A&M. We've played a little bit out there in the fall and everything, but not during the real season. So there's going to be a learning curve there for us, but we've also played in some big environments too, and the game doesn't know that. It's just going to be how we perceive it and how we react to it. So we're going to talk a lot about that, and obviously opening up at Florida, very first weekend on that Monday night, national TV game should be fun. Excited about that one, and Tim's obviously, I think you could throw a blanket over the three or four, five top programs at the top there, and say either one of them could win a national championship. So it's going to be a tough way to start, but we're excited about the challenge that's in front of us. We feel like we have a team that can compete and be prepared to kind of push ourselves.
I was trying to think. Have you been to Gainesville? Have you coached in Gainesville before? Is there some SEC cities you have not been to?
Well, I played in Gainesville in 2000, I think it was 11 with or maybe it was I think it was 11 with Oregon, and we went down there and we got beat up pretty badly
A lot of
actually.
teams did. A
So,
lot of teams did back then with those teams.
but
Yeah.
they were pretty good, so.
That's wild because you get to see some ballparks you probably haven't been to before, especially with some of the renovations that's gone on within the SEC, which is kind of the exciting part. And you're going to have some great home series as a result of that. That's an excitement there. Have you picked up on that from the other sports? They've already competed in the SEC, like volleyball has, and football obviously did, getting to the SEC championship, men's basketball, women's basketball currently. You've kind of noticed that, taking a peek maybe as how the SEC competition is going because it's top level at all sports in the SEC.
Yeah, well, I think one you get to look at right now is SEC basketball. It's just tremendous top to bottom, and we were able to come away with a pretty good win last night against Missouri. But I mean, week in and week out, you just can't look past anybody, and this going to be the same in softball. I mean, I don't care who you're playing; they're all going to be really tough and passionate crowds in the SEC, and we're excited for it, to tell you the truth. And it's all good for softball. It's gonna lift the game as we head into the Olympics, hopefully in 28.
One of the things that mentioned the SEC, of course, Texas A&M is in the same conference, and people are still kind of thinking back to that super regional, which many have regarded as the most exciting and maybe the greatest super regional ever played. Uh, have you had time to reflect on that, like being a part of that super? Because that was as intense as it got just to get to the World Series. Have people have asked you about that? I'm sure because that's one that's going to be remembered for a long time.
Well, I'm surprised I'm still kicking after that one. It was like it was heart attack city. It was really a up and down, and we were had our back to the wall. I mean, looking back, I can't remember us being down by 5 or 6 runs, which we were late in the game, and the ability to come back in those situations said a lot about our team and our program, and so that's something we can always draw on and go back to. But it just proves that the game's never over till it's over. And, we've been able to come back. I mean, several times. Another one that came back to mind is against Oklahoma State in the College World Series being
Yes.
down five. So we've had the ability to bounce back and, you feel like you can do it. And, one of the things that people forget a lot about Oklahoma is they were down several times, but their ability to bounce back as well. So it's something that's, big in programs that can compete. And I think that's what we want to be able to know as is you can't worry about, what's the word that describes your team. And hopefully ours is like we're competitors.
You go to Oklahoma, of course, you're in the same conference still in the SEC, but I noticed you're also going to go to Stillwater. You're going to play Oklahoma State as well, so that you continue to play them. You've had a lot of history with them, but that's kind of cool that you still get to play them as far as they're now as non-conference, just adding to your tough schedule. Of course, just add more
Yeah.
options to a difficult schedule.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have a really good pitching staff this year and another top program. Kenny's done such a great job there. Obviously, 4 College World Series in a row, I think it is. So and that's the thing you really want as a coach is consistency, from year in and year out, and always having an opportunity to get there. You may not win it, but just having that opportunity and getting to the College World Series. So it's exciting to go up and play there. They're pretty passionate up there, and they like to have the horns down. So it's going to be an environment that'll get us ready for going into Oklahoma, which is another one that's there's a lot of passion there. But it is something we're going to try and build on and do like a yearly thing. Same with Baylor. We're playing Baylor this year, and we'll probably continue to play them.
Yeah, Glenn, they're tough as well. It's just
Yep.
a deal there. You mentioned the Olympics. It's going to be in the 28 Olympics, Los Angeles. They're moving it to Oklahoma City in those facilities. And then 2032, the Olympics are in Brisbane, Australia, which many believe that softball will stay in there with being a softball country. What's your thoughts on the state of the softball in the Olympics with 28 LA being played at OKC and then the hope of maintaining that in Brisbane?
Yeah, I mean, I go back to like '96, and I think that that was the kickstart for women's softball. It really pushed it onto the main stage, America's Dream Team. I think they were on the cover of Sports Illustrated, if I'm not mistaken. And just that exciting series, Dot Richardson hitting the home run, and Lisa Fernandez with her passion. And there's a lot of really cool stuff that happened from that. And it really sparked the game, the growth of the game. And we're hoping that will continue. Obviously, our game's in a good spot right now, but we're hoping that 28 will give another kickstart. I mean, being in the home of College World Series, Oklahoma City is great. They're going to have that packed. There's going to be 14,000 fans there, and it's an exciting time. And obviously, Brisbane is a fun city too on the east coast of Australia. Great place to play. They're passionate about their softball over there as well. So things look really good for the future, and we just continue to push and be ambassadors for the sport.
Yeah, I love Australia. Visited Australia a few years back. It was fun. It's a blast. So that Olympics is going to be awesome. And with softball, certainly it's going to be fantastic there. A couple last things before we let you go. Another successful year for Sark football there. My question here
Yeah.
is he going to throw out a first pitch here this year, or do we get a Matthew McConaughey first pitch? Any chances of any of those combinations here this year?
I'll take either one of those two for sure. There's no doubt. I mean, Saka's been great. He's been very hospitable to us. Anytime we've had recruits and he has time, he's able to kind of meet with them, and he's just great and awesome. And he's also very supportive of all the other programs and the coaching staffs. I mean, he's always we have a little WhatsApp going on, and he's always giving comments and everything else. So that's great. And I've met with McConaughey once or twice, and he's pretty cool too. And so I just need to maybe find a way to reach out. I know he's super busy and he has a lot of things going on, but I think the girls would be pretty excited about that one.
What was that meeting him like? I mean, he feels like a down to earth guy. Like, what was it like meeting him?
Yeah, he really is. We actually it was a opening night of his movie. I think The Gentleman, I think it was the one he had, and it was a movie premiere, and he was at it and a couple of rows behind, and kind of said hi. And we also had him, a couple of years ago. We was there and we were having a recruit, so I was able to bump into him. So it
Yeah,
was pretty cool.
yeah, he's one of my favorite actors. So I'm envious. I'm a little
Yeah,
envious.
actually, he if you read his book, he spent a little bit of time in Australia as well. But
Yes.
his
Oh,
recollection of Australia wasn't the greatest.
well, yeah, he's done a lot of stuff. Short memory
I
of
think
deal,
he was
but
in the outback somewhere.
back there, yeah. But he's awesome. I mean, it's always cool to see him supporting Texas athletics there. I felt like wanted reaching out to Chris Del Conte. He's like, can you set up a meeting? But I've chickened out. I haven't done that. And you're right.
He's got to be superstitious. He's always wearing that jacket. So,
Oh, that's true. Ooh, good call. Good
and
call.
same hat maybe.
Maybe. Hey, whatever works, right? You can't
Oh yeah.
don't mess with what's working. No, he's awesome there. My last thing for you, as you get going in the season, and you'll get going obviously in Lafayette, playing the Cajuns to start among that tournament over there, among other games you'll be playing. What are a couple questions or things you're looking forward to finding out about your group once you get playing other competition?
Yeah, just how we take, heading in. Are we going to be like slow starters? Are we going to feel the fire? And one of our mantras this year is fuel the fire. What's the passion? This push. We were so close the last 2 out of 3 years, and it's a fine line. And are we going to wait for things to happen, or are we going to go take it to people and be in the attack mode? And I think that's what we got to do. So just to see how we kind of gel. I just have a good feeling about this team, the way they're reacting together. They feel like they have each other's backs. Probably one of the tightest groups we've had since I've been here. So everything points. I'm always cautiously optimistic. I kind of like to let our play speak for itself, as opposed to have premonitions about how good we're going to do or not do. So obviously this game is awfully humbling. You can't get too far ahead of yourself, and I've always remembered that. And so I just want us to be able to play and be ambassadors for the sport. Have young people that come to see us play say, "Hey, that's the way we want to play the game."
That is Texas head coach Mike White joining us here on In the Circle on D1 Softball. Coach, always a pleasure to catch up with you. Always love talking softball with you and just kind of pick your brain on the sport because I know you have a passion for it and always want the game to grow and be better and always learn something every time I talk to you. Thank you so much for always taking the time to talk to us around your busy schedule. Good luck this year. I'm sure we'll cross paths during the year, but be safe over there and thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Eric. We appreciate everything you do, and of course, D1 softball and hook 'em.